Okay, hello. This is Noah Lee. This is my submission for Weather App V3. Sorry for a bit of a different change in scenery. I'm home over break. I remembered too late that I actually had to record this. I do have everything done. I just forgot to record earlier, so I apologize if this is a bit of an awkward way to show everything. But let me boot up my M5 quickly. So I'm at home, if I can boot everything up. So as you can see, we have the normal display here. I can swap that over to the different screens. I can tap to show local humidity. Primarily this week was setting up actually that's one of the things I show of this week, the local humidity. So that is done with the SHT40. So okay, I apologize. Let me start from how I set this up. So since I maintained the ability to swap screens with the button on the right, and since we use the center button to change between Celsius and Fahrenheit, and Raymond used the button on the right side to go to the zip code screen, I had to have the humidity and temperature go with tapping the screen. So if I can get some good light on this thing to actually make it light up. So if I tap the screen, we go to the temperature and humidity. So this is again updated from the SHT40. So we can show the current temperature and the current relative humidity. And then if I breathe on this thing, we can show temperature spiking and humidity spiking as well. And then if I very carefully not turn this thing off with the other sensor, if I carefully push the Celsius button, that also changes. And that is also live, so I'll breathe on this thing again to show that spiking up. And then I can poke it again and go to Fahrenheit. And then the other part that I've been showing inadvertently is with the VCNL 4040. So this uses distance and the ambient lux. I end up using lux instead of white light. I think that's the intention to handle the screen going from light to dark along with it actually shutting off. So if I cover the sensor, I'm gonna just put it on my computer actually to show it. So if I point this down on my computer, once it gets close enough, the screen actually completely shuts off. And then with white light, if I try and cover this thing in my hand, so if I cover this, we can see the screen dimming way down. I think that's about as dim as it gets. It might be seeing its own light actually, but that can get a way dim and not be off. Then I can turn it off by fully covering the sensor here. And then as I get closer, if I can, my desk lamp is lighting this up. If I kind of cover it in my hand, then we can see the brightness dimming. Okay, that's everything from the Core 2. I can jump over to showing how this could work if I turn this thing off. Okay, so with the SHT40, so this is defined up here again, basic starter code from Adafruit. This was defined down here with, let me see, right here. So typical setup. This is again just from Adafruit to set up the precision for this. We have options of high, medium, and low. I defaulted to high because might as well use the highest that we can get. And then for handling the humidity, so first we get the humidity and temperature from the SHT40. I manage this to be from this humidity value, the relative humidity and relative temperature. And then this handles part of the requirement is to have it only update if the variables have changed and if it's been 5 seconds. So only this is only called every 5 seconds, and then it only changes if these values change. Or it actually will just kick back to the main screen or to displaying nothing if these variables have not changed. From there, this updates last for both of these. Set the screen to be that black background, handle the color. Then just up on the top corner, we have this is live. And then very similarly to the way that I had this set up for drawing the main temperature screen, which is, I believe, I don't think it's up here. It should be in. Ooh, trying to figure out which screen this one is. Sorry. I think it's here. Yes. So in the same way that I manage the temperature with the use Celsius variable and also change it to between Celsius and Fahrenheit on the display, I do pretty much the exact same thing here. I just do the math in place here because it's only used once for all these variables. But same thing, if use Celsius, if not use Celsius, then we do. Excuse me, I apologize. So it defaults to actually having Celsius readouts. So if we are using Celsius, just print it. Otherwise, we do times this basic function, which is the Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion, and then change C to F if we're doing Celsius or Fahrenheit. Humidity, very similar. And then this is used to, I believe, oh, this is from the timestamp. So let me actually boot this thing back up while I talk about this. So we didn't end up doing, or I didn't end up setting up a call to a API to get the current time. So the way that this works is it actually uses the first timestamp that is received by OpenWeather, but then does update based on the internal clock. So right now it is 10:27. So this is actually off by a couple of minutes. If I can not turn this thing off, sorry. This is actually off by a couple of minutes right now. This is showing 10:19. And I think if I update this and try and get a new ping from OpenWeather. So I'm just running the restart real quick. See if I can get a better response from that. So I don't think I actually have gotten a new response from OpenWeather yet. Let me cycle back around to California. It is okay, so I do have I can show you how this is handled in the code. So up in setup, we use this. So response is called first, and then it's processed by a new function that's basically the exact same as the JSON parser. So we get this first call to from OpenWeather and then store that. That then gets processed by boot startup time. And then boot milliseconds is used to increment that as time passes. So I'm not actually able to get a new call from OpenWeather with new data. It still is showing 1018. That's actually the same thing that shows on the main screen here. Interestingly, if I cycle this through a couple of times back to California, it actually does update the time here, but I don't get that in the boot up call. So it kind of works for the time. Technically, it is slightly off. So I guess point being maybe, but I think it was an interesting way to go about handling that updating. Why are you turning off? Hello? Am I just like parsing it? Whatever. Either way, so it's mostly there. If the sync to that first call is early enough, then it will get a very early call and then have like more precise data. But either way, coming back down to here, so this is just this is processed and then parsed out. Process startup time. Sorry, that was temp humidity. So that's drawn simply. And then to handle the screen brightness, I had an issue with, I think it was the beeper, it was beeping and buzzing, that project. We used the VCNL 4040 to handle that. But for some interesting reason, it is very biased towards close values. So I think it goes from 0 to like 5 or 600, but it's like the last actual like half inch goes from 100 to 500 in like that range. So I normalize this pretty simply. I have a separate normalize function somewhere here. So this and the other are normalized down here are essentially the same process. For proximity, take that in and then divide by 100 to clamp that between 0 and 500. Then I found an easy way to do that with just scaling it by or a power of 2.5, which kind of evens it out between that 0 to 1 range. And then we just use that for the proximity. So proximity is used to turn the screen on and off. So this handles it. So The brightness is separate from the screen, but since I cover the sensor with my finger, it does also affect the brightness. But as I cover it with my on my finger, once I get close enough, it does just totally shut the screen off. I found LCD sleep. I was originally going to set this with LCD brightness, but it actually didn't turn it completely off. By doing it with sleep, it does turn all the way off. So yay. And then similarly for the brightness, this is handled in the same section. This uses lux. And again, this is a separate function. This is gets lux, constrains it. The constraint here is so that I don't ever max out like way beyond or way below what the screen should be driven at. Because this actually can get really bright. I got it bright enough that around the edge, I'm not sure if you can see it here super well. If I get that brightness going, actually. I don't think you can see it super well, but you can kind of see the brightness shining through here. It was shining like all around the whole edge. I figured that was probably kind of bad, so I had it not do that. Um, Other than that, very much the same process. We clamp that down and then pump it back up to be between that 0 to 500 range because that's how I handle the branch here is that default is very low. If I cover this like all the way, then that's the lowest that it goes, constrained by this zero. And then it can get up to like 120. It can get a little bit higher if I like super crank my flashlight on it. It can get a little bit brighter. I'll try and show this. I don't know if I have enough hands to show this. Sorry. So I'll hold this one here and this one here. So if I hold this up very jankily, and then try and point it on here. It does get a tiny bit brighter. I'm not sure if that's coming across, but it does get a little bit brighter. I don't think that worked at all, but either way, you get the idea. It's processed the same way and then clamped within again that absolute value, returned back up here, and then we just set the brightness with LCD voltage, which is interesting. I was scared of this because I was afraid that I could like crazy overdrive it. I hope they did like gates on that, but I might be able to. I'm not gonna try, but I think I probably could. Um, but other than that, that's everything. So I showed the temperature and humidity, the brightness, and then the turn off. So that's everything. Again, I apologize for a little bit of an awkward setup here. I hope that me being able to show the screen worked at all. I hope I'm not just up in the corner and that's all you're getting. If you are, I'm sorry. I hope it worked out. Sorry for the late submission. Also, probably not gonna have any background music. Sorry if that was very entertaining. Royalty free, yippee. Other than that, thank you very much, and I'll cut it here. Bye.